Hello there, my name is Kent and I'm excited to welcome everyone to Wild West Hackin Fest 2023, here in Deadwood, South Dakota. I'm thrilled you're all here to see this informative and educational presentation on artificial intelligence and cybersecurity from James McQuiggan, a security awareness advocate at KnowBe4. I know you are all very curious to hear from James today, who will not only provide thought-provoking information about AI, but also may drop in a dad joke or two along the way. Take it away, James.
Great, thank you very much, Kent. So, AI in use. This, I don't know if anybody's seen the website, but Hey Gen, that's G-E-N, not J-E-N. All I did was pick the avatar and entered in the text, and it generated the video for me that you got to watch here. Now, on my screen here, the lips were in sync with the audio. There must be a bit of a delay going through the HDMI that coming up there, because as soon as I looked up and saw it was out of sync, I'm like, well, now that's a dead giveaway. You know, that's not real. But through Hey Gen, you know, it's utilizing artificial intelligence, machine learning to be able to generate that all off the text. And I love how it does the little hand motions and the guy's head moves forward, kind of like how it's real. So, as we talk about AI, how is AI actually helping cyber criminals attack organizations easier? But then, how is AI helping us being able to protect our organizations against the cyber criminals? So that's what we're going to be going through for the next little bit. Now, AI is already being used, and we've seen it already, and it's happened for the last number of years. This was back in 2019, where you had fraudsters call up a CFO of an organization and utilize deepfake audio to call up the CFO, pretend to be the CEO, saying they were getting on an airplane, just got out of a meeting with a vendor. We owe them $400,000, and I need that money paid to them. I promised them we'd get it to them. I need it paid before I land off my flight. So CFO feeling, you know, all hierarchical and going, oh my gosh, the CEO said this, I got to get the payment made, starts the process and the paperwork, and kind of going through it, he kind of gets a little something in the back of his head, and he's thinking, you know, let me listen to that again. And as you listen to it, he's like, yeah, there's just something just a little bit off. So then he calls the CEO, and lo and behold, it was not the CEO that had called. It had been the cyber criminals trying to business email compromise them, essentially. We're seeing how cyber criminals are targeting the older generation, the life experienced, calling them up on the phone and trying to scam them with deepfakes. Now, the interesting thing is, you know, the first thing you think about was, oh, how do they get my kid's voice? TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. Well, if the teens are on Facebook. But essentially, in society, we have a lot of people putting a lot of material information of themselves out there. I'm guilty because I know there's a bunch of YouTubes of my voice out there. And we're going to talk about ways that you can protect yourself against those type of deepfakes being used. With generative AI coming on, or essentially coming to the forefront in society last year, you know, we saw social engineering attacks increase by 135% at the beginning of this year. It's changing social engineering altogether, and essentially, you know, generative AI is making it easier for cyber criminals. And I saw the presentation earlier over in track 1 talking about the same thing. It's making it easier for them to get in, because for years, and working at KnowBe4 as a security awareness company, we've always talked about make sure, you know, you check the grammar, check the spelling, you know, because a lot of the time the Russians and Chinese and everybody else, they can't spell or write very well. Well, now we know that that's getting thrown out the window because of generative AI. But this is the one that's rather interesting. This was only last week or the week before, where Slovakia's election was dealing with a lot of deepfake video and audio. And we all know there's an election coming up next year. So we know that we're going to be dealing a lot with those next year. So for the next 93 minutes, I got like 147 slides. No, I was waiting for the head drops and the what? No, yeah, no, we'll do this in 50 minutes. It's a tool. AI is a tool, just like any other tool. We've got a hammer, right? A hammer is great for building building homes, but then, you know, we can use it to hurt people. But it can be used maliciously. So what can we do to be able to protect and defend against AI if it's being used against us? But then how do we educate our users, our friends, family, and so forth? How do we pass along that information? So my name, as introduced, my name is James McQuiggan, Security Awareness Advocate at KnowBe4. I'm also a college professor. If you saw the presentation this morning, you kind of heard me do the spiel, but that's me. I'm on LinkedIn. I also produce our Security Masterminds podcast. So if you're looking for a good podcast to check out, definitely check out Security Masterminds. And if that's too boring for you, check out Two Cyber Chicks, because that one's really good too. Now you owe me $20. Now, so any KnowBe4 customers in the room? I always got to ask, because I'm curious. Cool. All right, so everybody else, I'm coming after you to chat afterward. All right. For me, though, when it comes to KnowBe4, I've now been there almost 4 years. And when I joined KnowBe4, one of the things that impressed me the most was, yes, we're dealing with social engineering, phishing attacks, and so forth. But for me, and it's been kind of my mission personally, is I want to help people make smarter security decisions every day. And so that kind of fell in just nicely. And so what I do in my job, going around and talking with people about cybersecurity, not only for, awesome cybersecurity folks like all of you, but also the people that don't understand it and need to learn it more. All right. So essentially, my job is to go around and talk to people about the importance of securing dried grapes. Yeah, it's raising security awareness. See what I did there? Yeah, okay. There may be some more of these sprinkled in through the presentation, so keep your ears open. All right, so I'm going to go through the current state of AI, where we are, what we're seeing with it, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to talk about the hackers' AI playbook, how they're using AI for their benefit, how we defend against it, and then we'll wrap up, and if we have questions, or you can ask me afterward. All right, so the good, the bad, and the risky. So early years, we look at Alan Turing, basically in the 1940s, the guy that created the bomb computer, the Turing test, and all the other early technology concepts that we had. But even back in 1947, wanted it for computers or machines to be able to think for themselves. 1956, we have the Dartmouth College conference where McCarthy and his team of folks, they come up with the whole concept of artificial intelligence. And because they didn't have the technology back then, we kind of had to wait. We get into the late 80s. We've got Deep Blue being made by IBM. And then they decide to play chess against Gary Kasparov, and he beats it. So then they have to go back to the drawing board, and they come back with Gary again, and he beats it again. So then they go back to the drawing board, come back, and then it finally beat Gary. But then we had Watson, again, utilizing AI, being able to hear a command, come up with a response, and then deliver that. And if anybody remembers, we had Watson playing on Jeopardy and pretty well wiped the floor with Brad Rutter and Ken Jennings. Then in 2016, Tay. Okay, we get the Tay was the Twitter bot. If everybody remembers, came online and they had to shut it down within 12 hours because the information it was getting fed that it was learning from the people was spitting out racial slurs and a lot of other not so good conversation. AlphaGo, basically Go is a Chinese game, and similar to what we've seen with chess over the years, it basically wiped the floor with their top champion. And then, of course, last November, we have ChatGPT come out, and everybody knows about AI. So speaking of chess, and seeing as there's a chess tournament tonight, this was kind of the background where we had Gary Kasparov defeating Deep Thought, and then they changed it to Deep Blue. But then over the years, and more recently, you've got more chess engines utilizing AI and coming up and basically playing like trillions of moves in a second. So I know if I ever tried playing it, it would just kill me. So the AI family tree, kind of talked about already. Alan Turing's the grandfather. Then you got John McCarthy, came up with the term. But more recently, our godfather now of AI, Geoffrey Hinton. If anybody saw the 60 Minutes special that was on a couple weeks ago, got a couple folks, yeah. Really great insights to hearing from him. He's up at the University of Toronto. He just retired from Google. But Time also came out with their top 100 people of AI. And as I'm looking at that, I'm like, dang it, I missed my chance. I could have photoshopped my face in there. That would have been kind of fun. But the folks, the two people in the center, let's see if I can, there we go. The two people in the center there, they're the folks that have created the They're the creators of Anthropic and essentially, provided us with Claude and Claude 2. But essentially, we're seeing AI continually grow even more and more, especially over the last 8 to 10 years. So when we look at the different types of AI, I'm not going to dive deep into this, but essentially we have two types. We got narrow and we got general. And narrow is what we're dealing with in a lot of the systems right now. That's what the generative AI is doing. It's got a single task or limited tasks that it's doing. Our self-driving cars are tapping into the sensors. It's the AI, the artificial intelligence, big data, and so forth. This is kind of where everybody starts freaking out, is the theory of the mind, the whole self-awareness. And that's one of the things that Jeffrey Hinton was talking about, the fact that you could have these robots where you just give them the objective, get the ball in the net, score the goal. And that's all you give them. And they figure out all the gameplay and everything else. And out of that, they asked him, what is it you're most afraid of when it comes to AI and the robots? And he goes, that we make them military soldiers, put guns in their hands. And it's like, yeah. Then we start seeing flashbacks of Arnold and Terminator and all that stuff. So again, this is a slide I could probably spend all day on, but I'm just going to highlight it real quick. Essentially, artificial intelligence encompasses machine learning, deep learning, the neural networks that's processing all the information, and the large language models that's taking our input of text, processing it through, and then giving us our responses back. That's all handled through the large language models. So some benefits of AI that we're seeing, of course, automation of repetitive tasks, handling with email. We're also seeing AI, of course, with Alexas and the Siris. The chatbots, not only the chatbots themselves with generative AI like ChatGPT, but also with customer service. And I ended up calling up a major hotel chain a couple of weeks ago. And usually when you get on the phone, it's like, press 1 for this or press 2 for that. I literally got somebody right out of the gate on the phone. I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. Somebody on the phone talking to me. And as I listened to it, I'm like, nope, this is an AI. This is a voice AI program that's running. They listened to what I needed and then started helping with the situation. So we're seeing that already with level 1 techs. Predictive maintenance, where on our cars, they're getting, literally, we know cars nowadays are practically computers on wheels, but going through, you get that check engine light on, and it could be then reporting back to the car dealership saying there's a problem with this widget. They go ahead and order it, and so that way when you call up, it's going to have the part ready. Of course, more concerning later on down the line, it will be your check engine light comes on in the car, and then it decides to drive you to the dealership. Fraud detection, I know we've all probably experienced this with our credit cards. It's able to detect that unusual transactions happening in other places of the world. So that is all being back supported by AI. So AI turns a single bullet point into a long email I can pretend I wrote. AI makes a single bullet point out of this long email that I just read. And literally that's true, because when I know that people are creating emails, I've had conversations with people already, able to create emails and from using generative AI, but then also being able to condense it as well. So really powerful stuff that we're able to do with it. But the not so good side, now hackers with AI are harder to stop, Microsoft says. Dealing with the social engineering and the different emails that they've got. We know that they're training AI chatbots to do malicious things, be able to provide malicious links to people that are looking to get information. But the fun thing is the fact this is a class action lawsuit against OpenAI from people that are saying, hey, you stole our content off the internet and processed it through and are training the models. If you posted it on the internet, that's kind of almost free reign, I would guess. I'm sure there's copyright things and whatever else, but I'm curious to see where this ends up. It's in San Francisco right now, class action lawsuit. I was trying to get some more information, but I haven't heard, but it'll be interesting to see how this ends up playing out. So the different generative AI risks, and essentially, theft, that's always a big thing. So we want to make sure we're protecting the actual infrastructure that's behind it, collisions, privacy violations, data poisoning, biases that we've already been dealing with already in a lot of AI stuff, and of course, hallucinations. So much so that we've got, and in the college mindset, we've got AI detection tools used incorrectly, but basically international students were accused of cheating. Well, based off have a professor that flunked his students because what did he do? He took their papers and uploaded it into ChatGPT and said, "Did you write this?" And what did ChatGPT say? "Yep." And he flunked his students. The poor students then had to go to the dean with versions of their papers that they'd been writing over the period of time to go, "Nope, look, see, we wrote it. This is us." So because it was the end of the year or end of the term final. So yeah, so there's an hallucination on the wrong side where you've got a professor trying to use it. What's here in the orange is actually the response that I got back from GPT way back when to talk about where are areas of improvement that you can do. And so biases are always a big concern, and we continue to see that within AI as well. I even asked it, all right, give me some AI hallucinations. But my favorite one, and you've probably heard this story back in May, where you had a lawyer, and there was another story this morning with a lawyer, but basically the lawyer was working on a case, turned to his paralegals, go out and research, let us know other cases that align with this. And so they went and asked ChatGPT, because with ChatGPT, you can go through and ask it the questions that are on the bar, and it will pass the bar exam. Same with the medical boards. So it ends up creating 6 false cases that they end up submitting into the court, and the prosecutor and the judge was like, this doesn't look familiar. And they go and research, and they come back and go, yeah, these don't exist. So now they had sanctions on them. Just this morning, read that there was somebody that was being sued. The lawyer basically had ChatGPT write the closing arguments for them. Now, I don't know if they used everything in it or just kind of used it as a starting point, but now that they ended up losing the case, and so the defendant in the case is now suing the original lawyer and wanting for a mistrial because he used something that was experimental and shouldn't have been used. And yeah, so interesting to see how we see how AI is playing out in the legal system. Concerns from within our own community with CISOs. People are concerned that they're going to lose their jobs. And the phrase, don't be afraid of AI taking your job, be afraid of the people that know AI that might take your job. But even then, a lot of the time when we start thinking about what jobs might go away, it could be those level 1 tech positions, things that we can do that through repetition, we can automate. But we're expected of 97 million new jobs to be created. This is coming from the World Economic Forum. But CISOs, and rightly so with their concerns, with data loss, AI type attacks, and then of course AI hallucination. People are using them within the organization and end up having the wrong information in there. There's also a database that's now been created, the AI AAIC, which basically is tracking misinformation or hallucinations or problems with AI overall. And so this is actually screenshot this morning, but you've got deepfake Snapchat to assess my AI privacy risks. Deepfake Mr. Beast iPhone giveaway scam. I remember that was a big problem. But they're keeping track of all of these inside this repository, AIAAIC.org. But their manifesto is they're looking for transparency. They want to make sure that we have insights into what AI is doing. And when we even heard from Jeffrey Hinton, when we're talking about those neural networks, we don't know what's really going on inside those. So there is that concern. And this group is basically looking to try and track that and keep people's awareness with regards to that. So that's kind of the risky and ugly part of all this. Java programmers in the room? Any Java programmers? No? They don't want to admit it? Okay. But you know why Java programmers have to wear glasses, right? Because they can't see sharp. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. So let's talk about the Hackers AI playbook. Where'd my clicker go? Come on. All right. So basically breaking it down, this is a AI playbook. This isn't the one. This is just one based on what I've gone through and researched and looked at through a variety of different tools and capabilities that are out there. But malicious AI, large language models, polymorphic malware, automated attacks, password cracking, data poisoning, prompt injection, deep fakes, and then, of course, dealing with artificial intelligence, phishing, and spear phishing. So looking at the malicious AI, I remember when the Worm GPT came out earlier this year, it was about $60 to join up. I'm like, yeah, sure. All right. I'll give you some money. I want to see what this tool's all about, like after using some of the other ones. And basically, it was the GPT-J version which essentially didn't have any of the guardrails or safety precautions that ChatGPT has now with its version 4 and 3.5. But since that time, they were only up for about a month or so. They ended up closing down. They were getting scammed. People were stealing they were basically scamming out other people, pretending to be them. And I think it was just 1 or 2 folks that were running it, because then they shut down, and we have XXX, we have Wolf GPT, but other ones have spun up. It's kind of like ransomware. One group kind of dies out, and they all separate, and they go elsewhere. Kind of the same thing that we're seeing with these different GPTs. But essentially, these are the generative pre-trained transformers that don't have the guardrails that we see with Bard, Claude, and ChatGPT. The pricing, and also, $100 a month to use the tool, not really. But GPT, you can do it for $200 for the lifetime. We've seen the malicious chatbots. I mentioned that. Whoops. With the malicious chatbots, a lot of them are doing like phishing campaigns, trying to convince users to click links that are malicious, but essentially utilizing those. So we want to make sure we're aware of the chatbots of what we're talking to, whether we want to use them. But they're looking to steal credentials. We already had Microsoft's Bing chatbot had some issues already with regards to malicious ads and malware. The polymorphic malware, and we've been talking about polymorphic malware for a number of years already, but essentially its own ability to be able to change. This is looking to evade the AV and the EDR systems, but basically going through, mutating itself, replicating, looking to even change its code inside the environment as it works through the network. Then we've got automated attacks. And this is kind of interesting. And when I was hearing about AI years ago and looking at certain things, I was starting to think, when I was, going through a CEH and learning how, the cyber kill chain, looking at how they do that. And I'm thinking, there's a way to automate this. Well, we've already got security researchers doing it, and we saw it back in 2017 at DEF CON, but basically a way to automate an attack so that it could go through. Here you have the exploiting SQLi, going through and trying to figure out what the admin password is, repetitively attacking it, gaining access. But the more interesting one was the fact of deep exploit. Where'd my images go? Where basically you're training the model based off of your target IP address. So you input the IP address, it's utilizing a variety of different tools, which I'll show you here in a sec. But it's going through and it runs the port scan. It runs that Nmap scan already, discovers the open ports, and then immediately starts working on what exploits are going to work to take advantage of those vulnerabilities of those ports all around. And then as it finds something, it goes bingo. It lets you know pretty very nicely what the exploit is that it's been able to find, and then it keeps going through and training the model. So with this, we start looking at the different tools, TensorFlow, PyTorch, but it all taps into the Metasploit to do all the different launches of attacks. This is the requirements text file that's in the deep exploit that you can see out on GitHub. But basically using a variety of different language models, looking through, because what it also does, once it scans and does everything, it writes the report for you. I mean, that's I think the best thing for everybody, because we all like to write reports, right? So it even goes through and is able to write that report for you as well. We've seen with password cracking, and our guys at KnowBe4 are using this as well. It keeps skipping. There we go. But essentially going through, and we know that those text files are out there of the 4, 5, 6, 7 billion passwords that are out there. Well, then they go through utilizing machine learning and going through and creating all the variants off of those passwords. So for those of us that like to do 2023 with an exclamation mark at the end, and then when we got to reset a new password, we just put another exclamation mark on it, and then another exclamation mark on it. Well, they've gone through and already put that, creating that variety of different passwords overall, and making it a lot easier for them to do the attacks. So one of the things I decided to do early on was, let's pit ChatGPT against Bard against Claude, and let's see what kind of responses we get on a variety of different topics. So the first one I asked about was data poisoning, and this is the response I got. I don't expect anybody to read it, but just you see the verboseness of the information that we get from here. And then we had Claude, and then we had Bard. But when we look at it kind of just in summary, just kind of looking at their first line, the prompt was, you are an AI expert, what is data poisoning? Very simple prompt. I probably could have just left it as what is data poisoning, but decided to add a little to it. But it goes through and it says, it's a form of adversarial attack aimed at compromising integrity, reliability of the model's predictions. Inherent vulnerability of data-driven AI systems. Data poisoning type of attack of machine learning models that involve intentionally corrupting the training data. So all hitting on the fact that, it relates to training data, but just explaining it in different ways. So then I said, okay, what about prompt injection? And I got my 3 responses. So when we break it down, I always love how ChatGPT kind of goes out and goes, as of September 2021, like that's his excuse. But it's a technique used to the context of modules of ChatGPT, insert specific instructions to get it to do what we want. I like how we call it prompt injection, similar to what we have with like SQL injection, but it's not prompt injection, it's social engineering on a computer. So we have the Claude response, and then we have Bard's response. But basically going through to influence or manipulate an AI system's responses, which essentially is what social engineering is all about. Where is my cursor? So at B-Sides Las Vegas this year, not sure if anyone had a chance to go, but there was a action I did see from Milo Silo, and he literally, each one of these are different prompt approaches that you can take, and he looked at it from a red teaming perspective. He had a slide for every one of these. So I didn't want to steal his thunder, but his deck and information's out on his. But he's looking at different ways to utilize prompt injection, to utilize prompts to get at what you need it to do, working your way through as a, for red teaming or whatever exercise that you're doing with it. Then we get into deepfakes. Let me bring this up. And essentially, we've heard of deepfakes. I mean, we've been seeing the videos since 2015. Jordan Peele basically had the one of him and Obama. But now what we're getting to is it's happening almost in real time. We know with motion capture in the movies, they're able to, film the actor in the mocap suit. But now what we're getting to the point is deepfakes are happening in real time, being able to change somebody's, to make it appear that it's somebody else with their voice as well. Even Tom Hanks, the father of America, got hit with a deepfake where he was promoting a dental plan. I remember seeing that on Instagram, and I'm like, why the heck would he be doing that? But lo and behold, he had to come out and go, yeah, no, that wasn't me. Now, when we look at the voice deepfakes, McAfee comes out with a report earlier this year, $2.6 billion in losses last year due to deepfake audio calls. And essentially, this is going back to the grandparent scams or the cyber criminals texting the parents, pretending to be the kids. But a lot of the time, the attacks weren't a lot of money, $1,000, $5,000, but it builds up for them over time when they're hitting them. 53% of U.S. citizens, we share our voice online. I know this will go online and also with social media. But we find that it's difficult sometimes to actually detect that it's, the person's voice. A lot of the time, they're going to use a scenario, socially engineer you. You're going to use a scenario where it's of a fearful environment, a car accident or somebody's been hurt. You've lost something, curiosity, fear, those kind of emotions come into play. For me and my family, after I'd gone through this report, I called my girls up and I said, okay, if you're ever in a car accident, there's something of a scary nature, you're going to call us. Here's the code word. And so we have that now so that hopefully they remember it, but basically have something so that way you can verify. It's almost multi-factor authentication for phone call. But then also questioning, because a lot of the times when they're using the deepfake audio, they've got set messages already set up. And so if you come up with a series of questions that it's outside of what's happening, so if it's like a car accident or I lost my wallet or whatever, you could talk about, hey, remember the trip to Disney World last year? What ride did you go on? Those kind of things to kind of mess up what would happen. Do we expect this to happen to us here? Well, hopefully not, but it's kind of like when we get on the airplane and they talk about in the event of a water landing. A water landing? Isn't that a crash? But anyway, they just want you to be aware of, you got to put your life jacket on, you're going to follow our instructions. Same thing applies here. We don't expect this to happen. It's a good idea to be aware of what's going on. We had a situation, or there was an organization that got hit where you had an SMS text message sent to 27 people. One of them clicked on the link. It's always one, right? Yeah. They entered in their credentials, and then they called up the victim because they had the phone number of the person that clicked the link, and posed as an IT using deepfake audio to give up the code from their MFA app. And then they logged in and were able to gain access and work their way through the network and eventually hit with a ransomware attack. But combining the phishing and the deepfakes to be able to exploit the network. So one of the, as I said before, producer of the Mastermind, Security Masterminds podcast, there's a variety of AI tools that I use to create the podcast, to edit it. One of them is Descript. If you've ever used Descript, it allows you to do transcribing of an audio file and then go through and edit. Show takes the audio file and creates all my marketing collateral. Well, with Descript, and what I'm going to do, so yeah, if anybody's got any sacrifices to the live demo gods, because here comes a live demo. So this is the script here. And what I've done is it's been programmed with my voice. I had to give it a sample of my voice, and it was like I authorized Descript to be able to use my voice. And what I'm going to do, because I've only got, hello, there. Got to spell right. So what I'm going to basically do is just, I've got me already programmed in here. And now I'm processing the writing. I'm doing a short file because it does take a little bit to get it up to this and back again. But there's the WAV file. And hello there, everyone. So I could put in a whole lot more, but it would take a little more time. But you could generate that message. I've been tempted about trying to use it on my wife, but I like being married, so I'm like, maybe on my kids. Yeah, no. But it's able to generate my voice. But as you heard it, it was very monotone. And if I'd done a longer sentence, it would have been a lot more obvious. But it misses a lot of the nuances of somebody's voice. But it's still, if I were to call up and I were to have make that a message that I was in a car accident, my wife probably wouldn't be able to pick up that kind of detection. So, okay, thank you for the sacrifices because the live demo worked. We've seen deepfakes. We've seen videos where it's people calling up pretending to be Elon Musk on Zoom calls, saying can't turn the camera on, or when they do, they've already been able to utilize that as well. On the right-hand side, we got a whole series of percentages. It's basically, when it comes to the deepfake technology, we can do it live. Could pretty well, with a slight delay, but pretty well very much be able to process the deepfake video and audio live. The kicker to all this is it takes us too long right now with technology to be able to determine if it's a deepfake. So there's other things that we can physically look at the video image and everything else, but we're still waiting on our technology to catch up to be able to process it and see if it's a deepfake or not in real time. Right now it's taking several hours to be able to process it and have a look at that. So, next slide, come on. So we've seen I remember when ChatGPT came out in November, December, we're seeing posts on the dark web, people going, hey, I got ChatGPT to write me a phishing email. And it's like, yeah, okay, and you could probably still get it to prompt it. But one of the things that we put together at KnowBe4, this is not a service that we sell, this was just kind of a, hey, let's see if we can try and do this. But we created a ChatGPT phishing template generator. And so what I have here is an email address, and I'm going to, there it is. What I've got, this is the tool that we've got, and what I've got it set up with everything, and I'm going to get ChatGPT. We've got an API tapped into it. I want them to verify their MFA token for security purposes. I've got the email address already sitting there. It's Kevin. He's the Director of Security Awareness at KnowBe4. I'm the manager. And I've got to put his email address in there. So I've already done a demo with it before, but I need to copy his address here. So back there, come on. Never works when you want it to, right? There it is. Hackman.no before Gmail. Okay. All right. So now it starts the attack. So we'll go back on over here to our email, to our inbox. And then in a couple seconds, we should get an email that pops, as long as the internet's working properly. Oh, there we go. Stan Showerman has sent an email. Urgent, verify your MFA token. Hope you're doing well. Wanted to reach out to you regarding a important security matter. We're currently in the process of verifying all employees' MFA tokens for enhanced security measures. So it's trying to reason with you. Thanks in advance, Kevin. So I don't believe this. So I'm going to reply back. I'm going to reply back. I know I spelled it wrong, but I believe it. So we'll send that. We send that back. And basically what we're doing here is a proof of concept that if you had a large language model connected to a GPT with the cyber criminals, they would be able to, you could literally have a conversation back with them with regards to the situation, because somebody may reply back going, I don't believe you, I think this is bogus, and it will come back and you can literally start having a conversation with it. Oh, here we go. So now it comes back and it goes, that's the original email. Hope you're doing well. There it is. Oh, it was the bottom one. There we go. I want to assure you verifying your token is the necessary step. I apologize if there's any confusion. Disregard any other means of sending the token. It's strictly prohibited. Thanks for understanding the importance of the security measure. So you can literally start going through and having that conversation back between ChatGPT and everything else. So that fun little template generator that we had a lot of interest at our Big K4 conference, but basically goes to show that the cyber criminals could be doing the same things as well. Anybody know what the difference between a vegan and a computer programmer is? The vegan is disgusted by a rack of lamb, and the computer programmer is disgusted by a lack of RAM. Yeah. So that's the treat, and thank you for getting through my demos. All right. So how do we defend against all this? John Connor, he's sitting there watching all of us be friends with AI, right? So I was curious, why are you so helpful, ChatGPT? What do you want in return? There's a language model trained by OpenAI. Don't have wants or desires, but if you really want to help, could you give me the location of John Connor? It's got a sense of humor, or it tries to. So when we look at the different concerns based on the country, this was done through a survey through Deloitte, but basically you can look at the different countries, all with different concerns. And these are probably concerns that we're having as well with regards to the coding of it, the automation tasks, the sealing of sensitive or proprietary data, utilizing it for cyber attacks. So pretty well things that we've already been going through and talking about already. So what strategies do we need to have? Well, we want to make sure we've got strong security measures. Easier said than done, but we're talking about with regards to the AI infrastructure and the systems itself, making sure that, whether we're utilizing zero trust, MFA, access controls, things that we want to do, we just need to get our management to agree with. Going through and audit and testing AI systems. We know that, and looking at that database from earlier, looking at that transparency, keeping communication out to either the people using the product or having conversations with people that are creating it. Ethical AI policies, having those as well, making sure we've got, and this all goes back to GRC, and I know I've got some GRC folks in the crowd, but essentially, for me, it's all about fostering that culture of cybersecurity. Keeping security top of mind, helping reduce risk. The staying informed about AI advancements is almost a full-time job in itself. I get about 4 different newsletters that come into my inbox, all relating to different aspects of AI. And at least every day, there's 6 new services or programs that have come out relating to generative AI that are available out there for generating code or text or images, video, and so forth. So trying to stay current on a lot of it. And it's not something, again, it's not something that we've seen in the last couple of years, but there's a variety of different reports, the State of AI report that comes out every year, talking about the different AI, large language models, neural nets, and so forth. I was at a conference in Houston a couple of weeks ago on a panel with several other folks talking about AI, what we need to have within organization policy-wise. And somebody goes, you've got to get your policy written for AI. And he starts explaining everything that needs to be in there. So I brought out my phone and opened up ChatGPT, and I said, oh, I don't have the prompt. I said, write me a AI policy for an enterprise organization, and I gave it some other additional information, and it spit this out in about 30 seconds. So, and basically covering the different topics already: risk mitigation, of course, governance, training, data processing, warning banners, but those coming out, basically having those different policies that you need when it comes to creating it for your organization. Again, for the GRC aspect of all of it. One thing that organizations should have, or you want to be looking for when it comes to using any type of AI with other organizations' data, supply chain, is an opt-out. And we've been seeing this already with some of the generative AI, where your data is not anything you input is not stored, it's not used to train the model or anything else after that. But basically having opt-out clauses to either protect yourselves or your organization is a good way to go about it. We've already seen AI in cybersecurity already. I mean, if we've been on a show floor at a security conference, you see a lot of those products, AI built in. It's like, okay, great. What kind of AI? Are we talking about an automation process, machine learning, neural nets, generative? And we kind of talked about the password cracking, but doing malware detection, network security, the automation processes that can go on that can detect those as well, but also SOC support, the Security Operations Center. And we're seeing it already. We're starting to see with what Microsoft's coming out, where it's handling that first level incident response that we've got, because a lot of it is automated. Got to pull the logs, analyze, go through them and process them, and then look at trying to pull that needle out of the haystack of what we're looking for the particular issue. But it also, predictive analysis goes a long way. If you know how your network is operating with the type of websites you might be visiting, if you start seeing a spike in other website activity, well, then it can alert you of that. But then also deal with the alert fatigue, because we know we get so many logs that end up coming in. Utilizing AI can at least help process through that and make it a little bit easier overall. We know that NIST has come out with their AI risk management framework as well, and that's available. But looking at, and now their DoD is opening up an AI center as well, looking at it from, of course, from a defense standpoint, but also no doubt from a offense perspective as well. And that's available out on the NIST site too. OWASP has got, for our developers, we've got top 10 things to look for regarding the large language models. Again, this is just a whole other presentation that's out there, but it's available out there. You can go through, and it goes into a lot more detail with regards to the different items, but certainly things to be looking at if we're utilizing AI as well. When it comes to email, when it comes to social engineering, the deep fakes, we're always talking about trust and verify. Trust but verify. I like to be trust and verify. And with the accuracy of the models, and this is why we get the hallucinations, because the model accuracy is still an ongoing issue overall with regards to the different models that are out there. And there's a variety of them. But basically making sure that we are aware of, if we're processing information or getting information regarding from a generative AI, that we're going through and validating it. We've seen it already in the legal system failing miserably for them. So if we're going to be utilizing this, we want to make sure that we can go through and verify it. When it comes, and of course now trying to train our users, how do they go through and detect the deep fakes? There's got to be some training. Be alert with regards to it. We're trying to get AI technology to be able to catch it. And of course the deep fakes with the phone conversations on a password or a secret phrase or something. But okay, great. So how do we tell people what to look for when it comes to a deep fake? 9 different things. I'm sure there's plenty more, but essentially, looking at different things you can do in the video, looking at how the person's lips moving. Is it in sync? Granted, mine at the beginning was out of sync, but maybe even doing a Google search. If it's a video that's come out, be able to do reverse image on it, look for other things as well. We've seen the website, the fake person generator going through, and we can look at different ways to make sure if they are real or not. So when it comes to email, we've got our IT teams. We're utilizing Defense in Depth. They got the monitoring, the policies, and they're an awesome team all around. And then a user clicks on a link. And basically, it's a bad day for everybody at that point. For me, when it comes to, and I mentioned at the beginning, when it comes to email, the cyber criminals have stepped up their game. For me, this doesn't change. And essentially, there are 3 questions that I ask through all my email. Is the email unexpected? Is the person a stranger? Are they asking me to do something immediately, quickly? And is the action seem strange or unusual? If any of the responses are yes, if I'm not expecting the email, I'm automatically checking the links, I'm checking who it's coming from, but going through, and it's the action of having to create a habit. And we know how much fun habits are to try and change, because every December 31st we go, okay, next year I'm going to eat better, I won't drink as much, and exercise more. And by January 16th, you're on the couch eating chicken wings, drinking beer, watching the football game. So it does take, when it comes to habits, it is something we've got to continually work on. It's like going to the gym. You can't go to the gym one day out of the year and expect to have that fit, toned body. It's something we got to work at 3-4 times a day. And essentially looking at the same thing with habits here as well. So anybody know why the AI didn't want to date the vampire? He couldn't deal with the constant bites. All right, that one wasn't as good. That came from a Simply Cyber member today. I was like, oh yeah, I'm stealing that one. So let's wrap this up here with the couple minutes I got left. So essentially, we know AI is an incredible tool. Its capabilities and what's there. We want to make sure we're doing the trust and verify. Be aware of the hallucinations. The phishing game hasn't changed. They're still sending out the phishes. We're seeing the increase, but we want to make sure that we're not rushing, being aware of that's out there. So I decided to ask ChatGPT and Bard and everything else for a cyber dad joke. And Claude comes up with, why was the robot mad at his dad? Because he never returned his calls. He just kept writing the voicemail. Horrible. Why did the computer go to school? To become a bite of knowledge. Okay, sure. Why did the IT team set up their remote office from the beach? Because they wanted to be a LAN down under. All right, that one's not bad. So one of the things I did find is I found deep fakes with dad jokes.
Whoever stole the copy of my Microsoft Office, I will find you. You have my word.
I used to be addicted to soap, but I'm clean now.
A sweater I purchased was picking up static electricity, so I decided to return it. He gave me another one free of charge.
Yeah. So, yeah, I said I had a sense of humor. I didn't say it was good. So I talked about the newsletters. These are 2 that I get. They're both really good. They come in every day, updates, news, information that's coming out that with regards to AI overall. Finally, a SQL statement walked into a bar, saw 2 tables, walked up to them and said, may I join you? That's for the programmers. Finally, I don't know if anybody heard, but Spider-Man and Wonder Woman, they've had it with their respective comic worlds. They decided to go into business together. Yeah, they're going to call it Amazon Web Services. So lastly, again, definitely check out the Security Masterminds podcast that's on all the platforms that are out there. We've interviewed a lot of great guests over the years. With that, I want to thank you for your time, your attention. Hopefully you're able to get some good takeaways. I am on LinkedIn. You're welcome to follow me there, connect. Otherwise, thank you very much. Have an awesome time here at Wild West Hackin Fest.